Whatever you bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven. My friends, the gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
So I teach in the marketing department, and the head of the marketing and management department is called the chair, right? The chair of the marketing and management department. So we have department chairs, and then we have all these endowed chairs. We have the weight chair. Father Kevin Flannery is the weight chair, and Father Roy Pereira is the hider chair. And I, joke with Father Pereira. I asked him, I said, did they give you a table with your chair? But in some places, like in India, for example, the idea of a chair, is so foreign because many people sit on the floor, right? And I would assume that even during Peter's time, in Jesus' time, Peter was a fisherman. I wonder what his concept of a chair was in his boat, in his fishing boat. But what we are celebrating today, as we celebrate the chair of Peter the Apostle, is really this leadership role that Peter was entrusted with by Jesus in leading his church, right? His group of disciples, and later on, the church. But Peter was not a saint. Peter was this brash guy who even, when he was supposed to defend Jesus, actually denies him, right? He denied Jesus 3 times. So what is special about Peter, right? What is special about Peter was that in spite of all his brashness, and in spite of his wild and reckless self and his sinfulness, that he was dedicated to Jesus, that he saw who Jesus was. And this, as Jesus kind of points out in the gospel reading today, was not by any merit of Peter. It was kind of revealed to Peter. And so it was really this grace of God that Peter was open to in his life. And so really the foundation of the church, Peter symbolizes that grace that is at the foundation of the church that we belong to. It was not Peter's great talents and gifts and his leadership qualities. It was his openness to grace. And so 2 things that we kind of, as we celebrate today's feast, that we are reminded of. One is that authority in the church is never about domination, it's about service. So authority in the church is about service. And the second aspect is that, that people who are called to leadership are not perfect people. It is in fact people who are broken and fallen and sinful, who are called to some of these leadership positions because they recognize that they can rise up from their brokenness and fallenness and depend on God's grace. And so it is not about them, but it is about God's grace in their lives. And so it was very appropriate when Pope Francis was inaugurated that his first sentence to his audience was, "I am a sinner." I am a sinner, right? He didn't say, I am this great person who now has been appointed to be your leader. He said, I am a sinner. Because recognizing that allows us to be humble, to realize that whatever we do is not because of us, is not because of our greatness, but it is because of God's grace that is manifested through us. And so let us pray as we kind of, in this first week of the Lenten season, that we might recognize God's presence in our lives, that we might be open to the grace of God, and that we might not let our sinfulness or fallenness get us down like it did for Judas, but instead, like Peter, we can rise up and we can be messengers of God's love, of God's reconciliation in our world.